Thank you, Jennifer, and good morning to all. I guess it's afternoon here now, so I should say good afternoon. I'm going to be doing the presentation, although I've only attended two NERC MRC meetings so far and two Board of Trustee meetings as kind of one of the new kids on the block. I'll try to do the best I can. Brian Evans-Mongen, who is also a Sector 5 representative, is on the Standards Committee call today. So next slide, please. We thought the first thing we should do was provide what the definition of what transmission dependent utilities are. And the NERC bylaws provides a good definition of that what the sector includes any entity with a regulatory, contractual, or other legal obligations to serve wholesale aggregators or customers or end-use customers, and that depend primarily on the transmission systems of third parties to provide this service. So generally, some of our members own transmission in this sector, but most don't own transmission, and those that do rely on others for services. Next slide, please. So who represents the membership of Sector 5 transmission dependent utilities? Currently, we have 64 members registered. Many of them are in public power. The heaviest concentration of those are in the MRO. We do have some investor-owned utilities and some rural electric cooperatives. So we're kind of a smattering of everyone who has transmission-dependent utility needs associated with us. Our entities are in 5 of the 6 NERC regions, and most of these TDUs are very small and need assistance, and that assistance comes from several places. The trade associations providing a great deal of assistance, EEI, NRECA, who we just heard from, American Public Power Association, and LPPC, Large Public Power Council. They're a group of American Public Power Association members that generally own transmission, but are the larger serving members. And secondly, Transmission Access Policy Advisory Group, or TAPS, and that's who I represent. I'm the executive director of TAPS. We are primarily organized to serve the needs of small transmission dependent utilities. Those small utilities that are registered entities also rely on joint action agencies of public power and consultants as well. Consultants, evidently, a few years ago, there was a strong discussion about, or a lengthy discussion about whether consultants can represent those on the MRC and those at NERC. And we do have some consultants, and Brian Evans being one of those that does that. Next slide, please. So how do we get our work done? Our representation conducts NERC monthly meetings. We have a monthly call where we get input across all of the membership that we can gather into one time to talk about the issues, talk about what's coming up, what votes are coming up, and share any information we can on upcoming votes on issues that we have. We work very closely with APPA and Large Public Power Council when we develop comments, and APPA as well has weekly NERC meetings that we participate on, and they many times are the ones that help us provide input into the letters and the input that we provide on a quarterly basis to the NERC Board of Trustees. We do have members in our that we represent that have active participation on the MRC. We have 2, the RSC, RSTC, SC, and the CCC. We have representation on all those committees. We're also actively involved in several standards projects, both as members and observers. Next slide, please. The issues themselves, spend a little bit of time on that, and a lot of these are probably going to sound a lot like what Greg and Jason talked about with the rural electric co-ops. One of the things that we're probably most primarily interested in as a TDU is to make sure that our standards, the standards that are being developed by NERC, are risk-based. We have a lot of small members that, you know, quite frankly, aren't going to create a major outage on the system, and we want to make sure that these standards are risk-based. What is the risk of an event, and will a small utility make create a risk where the entire system is at stake. So that's something we're very interested in. Secondly, cost of compliance. How costly are these compliance mechanisms going to be to put into place? Thirdly, resource adequacy. This is probably one of the biggest issues that we see is, will there be and are there going to be the ability to have the lights kept on? Cyber and physical security approaches are very important to us as well. Thirdly, ownership and duties associated with transmission to maintain separation of responsibilities. So as I mentioned, most of the membership in the Sector 5 do not own transmission, but some do. Some of those that do own transmission probably are not the transmission operator and planner. So we want to make sure that the duties that are associated with these are separate and distinct. Next slide, please. We think it's very important that there is enhanced visibility and transparency in the ERO programs. And I think an example of that, we do really appreciate NERC and the transparency that they provided on the recent strategic plan that's being developed, giving us more time to provide input and have review of that. I think that's an example of how enhanced visibility can be a benefit to all of us in the program. The balance, I think, between reliability, sustainability, and affordability has been talked about with Jim Robb in his presentations as the three-legged stool. It's so important to really look at these three things and have balance between all three of them. We can't completely go to reliability at the expense of affordability. There needs to be a very close look at balance on these things. And lastly, one of the things that we are very concerned about is workforce. Do we have the people? We sure wish we had more. Do we have the people, and will we have the people in the future to provide our voice on the committee structures and the committees that are at NERC developing standards? That's something we think is very, very important. So with that was very brief. I know I would be happy to answer any questions on the approaches that we are taking on the TDU group. To my ability anyway, I've been very fortunate to be on the MRC and appreciate the education that I've got in the last few months, and look forward to working with you all in the next few.